and thank you all for coming. So I'll just give you a quick background on myself and my co-founder from Idacity and talk a little bit about what we're doing for the SEC. And then I'm going to show you some real data, what your data looks like in XBRL. So I was part of the core team at the SEC as part of XBRL US that built the first taxonomy. And I've been involved with the SEC and XBRL US since the inception of XBRL in the US. After working on the project with XBRL US, I went over to the FASB, where I was the XBRL project manager for a couple of years, where I built up the team there to deliver the updated taxonomy to you every year that you get. After leaving the FASB, I was kind of thinking about, well, you know what, I've been working all these years on that side of the fence, building taxonomies and helping companies like yourselves tag the financial statements, but I now wanted to make sure that this data gets used. So as with you, some of you I saw were a bit skeptical about who's using this data, and I totally understand because the data is complex. So I was very passionate about wanting to build something to make sure that people like yourselves and your colleagues and investors in the SEC can consume this data really, really easily. So I teamed up with Emily Huang. And Emily Huang, some of you may have heard her name or have worked with some people at Rivet before, but she was the co-founder at Rivet Software. So as most of you would know, Rivet Software developed software that helped companies like yourselves tag their financial statements using XBRL. So she sold that company, and after she sold that company, again, she had that passion. She wanted to make this data consumable. So we teamed up to form Idacity. So we've been around since 2014. We've been in stealth mode the last year, and just at the beginning of this year, we publicly, so to speak, came out where we're now showing this tool to folks like yourselves and investors and of course the SEC. So I'll speak a little bit about what I can say about what we're doing for the SEC. What I'm about to show you is the Idacity platform. But what we are doing is customizing our platform for the SEC so that they can pull up data and analyze data in a very easy and quick fashion. So as you're looking at what I'm about to show you, just keep in mind that when I click on a button or when I click on a slider and the data updates immediately, that's basically how quickly the SEC will be able to analyze the data. They can just click a button and you'll see the graph immediately update. So just keep that in mind. So in terms of framing the rest of this presentation, what I want to do is to show you, since that we have lots of oil and gas companies in the audience, I wanted to show you what are some of the data that you can quickly access now. Some of the granular stuff that's buried in the footnotes that Mike alluded to, where it's going to take you days, weeks, if not a couple of weeks to collect this data. How easily that data can now be surfaced. And when we speak to folks out there, we're pleasantly surprised in the different ways that people are interested in using the data. So we have some customers now who are using the data. You would think, well, in external reporting, but actually it's their business development folks who are trying to prospect new clients. It's the investor relations folks. It's the marketing folks to try and do some analysis of new market opportunities. It's the folks in corporate strategy who are keeping tabs of who their competitors are acquiring. Now, all of that information is very easily accessible now. So I wanted to show you some of that data and what that data looks like, so your data. And then I'm going to show you the data that the SEC is interested in looking at. So kind of following on from what Mike was discussing. So what you see here right now is what we call a storyboard in Idacity. And again, this is just one way of viewing the XBRL data. I'm not saying this is the be-all and end-all. There are other vendors out there that extract the XBRL data and put it in Excel format, and that's fine. That's how they do it. We do it differently. We want to make the data visual and interactive. So this is what we call a storyboard, which we think of as in terms of PowerPoint but on steroids. You can interact with the data. So and the caveat too is I'm a Mac user, so if I fumble around with the keystrokes, I have to rewind my brain to become PC now. Okay, so this is what we call a card. A card is basically like a slide, but it's interactive. So we've got some oil and gas revenues here, and you say, okay, well, so what, big deal. But this is oil and gas revenues. You might not be able to see it in the back, but it's oil and gas revenues for 2015 for a couple of companies that I selected. Well, guess what? Now, if you wanted to drill into the the revenue of a certain company, you just need to click a few buttons and it'll show up. So I'm going to pick the first one. I'm going to select Encarna because I happen to be the first one. And then I'm going to click that button. Now, I know that the font may be too small for you to see, but on the screen, it's basically a drill down of the revenues for Encarna for 2015, right? Now, again, the interactivity nature of it is that, you know what, there's too much information here. Let me close a branch. So you can focus in on certain pieces of information. But what if you wanted to compare two companies and their breakdown of revenues, right? It's as easy as doing this. Now, I'm going to scare you because it's going to be a lot of information, right? So I've picked the other company, which is Antero. Again, it's, I apologize for the few seconds delay in me trying to rewind my brain and use a PC, but you can see this information pops up. Now again, you can repackage as a user of this interactive data. You can repackage the information so that you view what you want to see. So if it's too much information, you close a branch, right? And you want to focus on maybe geography, comparing the two oil and gas companies on geography, breakdown in revenues, or perhaps their particular service or product. So this is just one example, right, of how quickly an analyst, a competitor, the SEC, and investors, with a few clicks of a button, can access detailed information that's buried in your footnotes, okay? Let me show you the next slide. So here, let me, This is the future net cash flows from the approved oil and gas reserves. This is, as you would know, information that's buried in the footnotes, hard to find. This is the cash flows for a time series, right, over time, for one company. Well, what happens if you want to look at a bunch of companies? Well, again, if you pull the data, create a card, it's a matter of simply doing this. Watch the data come alive and update immediately. But what if you don't want to focus on the net cash flows, you want to focus on how much these companies, what the cash flows look like for, let's say, production and development? Well, I'm going to deselect the net cash inflows, and you can see the graph immediately updates, right? And I can do any of that with any of the companies here. Right? I can go to range. I can go to the next company. And let me click. Was that range? Oh, sorry. Southwestern. Again, very quickly to update information, to do comparative analysis across a bunch of companies. So that's detailed information buried in the footnote that if you want to collect that information for, say, 40 companies, which I have here, I'm not going to bore you with that, to put it into an Excel spreadsheet manually, right, and then to plot it, it would take a while. But with XBRL, very quickly. So now, it's that same piece of information again. What I'm going to show you is, let's say if we look at, from this drop-down menu, the same cash flows, right? But let's say we wanted to look at development for all of these companies. Well, now I'm comparing the future cash flows related to development costs for all of these companies. Again, you can interact with it to take out outliers. So let's say this is Encana here. I'm going to deselect Encana. This is Continental. I'm going to deselect Continental. So you can hone in and drill into the companies that you want to analyze and take out any outliers. Again, you can kind of see the interactive nature of XBRL data. Here is just some revenues, and I kind of went through and picked out some revenues for some companies here. So this is for 5 companies: Ensco, Neighbors, Transocean, Vanguard, and Noble. Here's the same data, but different. Same revenues, the same companies, but now I'm going to show drill down, right? So what I'm trying to demonstrate this idea with XBRL data, there are different ways to look at the data. You can look at it in aggregate over time, you can drill into it, you can compare a company to its peers very quickly. So again, let's pick Transocean, the first couple, Ensco, and Neighbors. Very quickly, you can do the drill down, right? And a lot of information there, but trust me, at the back, it's basically, you guys know, right? It's a segment footnote, revenue breakdown, axes, members, all that kind of fun stuff. But that's what we pull up really quickly, right? Now, if you look at this information, you can also look at the same information, but with a different lens. So what you're doing now is you're looking at, say, Noble Energy, and you're comparing Noble Energy's net income with its 42 peers. I don't know exactly who the peers are. I just randomly selected companies that might be in the same SIC code. So I just picked out 42 companies, oops, here, and you can see it over time. Let's say I wanted to compare Noble to its peers, it's 42 peers, right? So Noble here, based on revenues. See the data update immediately, right? If you wanted to look at the EPS for Noble and compare it to its peers, yet again, see it updated. But hang on, this is all annual data. Well, what if I wanted to look at quarterly data? Well, it's as easy as sliding the slider up here from annual to quarterly. And now you see the quarterly data. Now, I can do that for all 42 companies. Again, I'm not going to bore you, but this is the power of XBRL. We're no longer living in sort of like a static kind of data world. It's interactive. So if you have questions and you're like, well, what if? I wonder, where do we fit in relative to our competitors? Or what are investors looking at? Or what are new market opportunities? You don't have to spend days, hours, in terms of collecting, and sometimes weeks, right, in terms of collecting this data. Now, with this data, you have the opportunity to be able to just simply type in, right, some KPIs or some financial items that you want to look at, type in some company names, and within seconds, literally, right, you can pull that data up. And so this kind of comparison is very, very easy with XBRL data. Now, since most of you are in external reporting, one of the use cases that we're hearing a lot when we speak to our customers in external reporting is, you know what, we don't spend that much time doing benchmarking and kind of looking at new market opportunities. We're really concerned about making our findings correct and making sure that we don't stand out. So what I'm showing you as a screenshot is something that we've already built out, and we just have to fold it into the Audacity interface. We haven't done that yet. But let me talk you through what this is. So the use case that we keep hearing from external reporting folks is, you know what, if we have litigation or if we have environmental claims, I want to make sure that the language I'm using in my footnote is consistent. It's not going to draw attention to my company. So I want to do a quick search, really quick, to see how other companies are describing their particular situation. Or if another company receives an SEC comment, I want to know, what did they receive an SEC comment on, and how do they deal with it? So how do you, as an external reporting person, exploit, well, probably the word exploit isn't correct, but leverage the power of XBRL to help you do your work efficiently? Well, guess what? You guys tag the footnotes, text block. So what we've done is we've built in this capability so that all you have to do is type in words like SEC comment, which is, again, the screenshot is probably, the font is too small here. But all you do is type in SEC comment up here in that little box. And literally, if that query runs for more than 20 seconds, I get really upset. I go back to my engineering team and I say, look, this has to be within 10 seconds. So literally, right, we're in that 15-second mode now. But literally within 15 seconds, you get all the companies, and you can filter by industry, which we've done. Yeah, so again, too small, but happy to discuss with you later on. You can filter out companies within your industry. You can pick out years that you're interested in, say 2 years, 3 years, from 2014 onwards. So you filter all of that, and within 15 seconds, and we're trying to get that down to 10 seconds, you can pull up every single footnote, right, that any company in your industry has mentioned SEC comment. So now you're in a position to say, hey, if these guys over here got and called up on an SEC, they had an SEC comment and this is how they addressed it and they mentioned it in their footnote, you want to avoid that, right? So this helps you do your work more efficiently by leveraging text blocks. This is a screenshot where I did a query on environmental claims, and again, within 15 seconds, I can pull up every single footnote of every single company that has ever mentioned environmental claims. And the good thing about this search, and I'd be curious to hear your feedback, and if this really is something that is useful to you, is to say, you know what, I didn't realize that, some companies were discussing environmental claims in the footnote that I wouldn't have guessed. I thought, commitments and contingencies, right? But sometimes it pops up in footnotes that you wouldn't have thought about. And this is a good way, too, to identify where these certain keywords of peer competitors, right, if they're competitors in your peer companies, where they're mentioning these words and in which particular footnote, in what context. So now, I've sort of talked a bit about what your data looks like, how you might be able to leverage XBRL data to help you do your job. I'm going to now pivot over to, actually, I'll show you this. Pivot over to what the SEC is looking at. So just as quickly as I can, drill into revenues for your segments and also show you detailed information from the footnotes for 40 companies, right? The SEC is also looking at the data this way as well, right? So here's an example of stockholders' equity for some, oil and gas companies. And obviously we see when I hover over here, Exxon, so not surprising, right? Largest stockholders' equity, Chevron, right? So no big surprises, but this is annual data. So again, it's annual data, but all the SEC analyst has to do is slide that slider across from annual to quarterly, and then you see this. So this is very similar to the graph that Mike showed you, right, for GE. In this graph, something just jumps out, right? There's something that doesn't look right, which is this. So now they're going to do something like this. They're going to hone in, and all they have to do is just click and drag the mouse to dive into certain quarters where they see anomalies. So what they have here is, interesting situation. Exxon. I don't think anyone from Exxon is here. 2012 quarter 1, 2012 quarter 3, 2012 quarter 2 is somewhere down there. What happened? Now, these kinds of anomalies, I know you probably think, this is probably like your worst nightmare, but this is the data that the SEC is seeing, right? And it's as easy as clicking that slider and moving it across. So I did some research. I was curious too. I was like, what is going on here? And it turns out when I did the research, which again, we are customizing the platform so that all the SEC analyst has to do is click, click, click to uncover what the problem is, right? When I did the research, it turned out that they had tagged incorrectly. So they should have used, and for all of you XBRL geeks out there, they should have used an axis and the member, and they didn't. Okay? So for that quarter, they didn't dimensionally qualify. In fact, so of course it pops out like that. So even with that simple mistake, it has some pretty severe consequences in that the data looks like this. Now, oops. I'm sort of giving all my punchlines away. I had kind of worked through this before, but what I wanted to show you, which you already saw, the end result, but here is a graph of tax rate, right? So as you know, it's that information that's buried in the tax footnote, and you see all these like lines for all these oil and gas companies, and and you're thinking, well, what is happening here? Again, the SEC is looking at this data. And the one thing that would pop out is this one anomaly right here, right? This interesting negative tax rate of 27% amidst all the other companies, right, in a similar industry. And so, of course, the SEC analyst is going to look into that. And all they have to do, and I'm going to show this for a fact, well, I kind of showed you the outcome before, but I'm going to show you this for a fact. All they have to do is deselect these companies, right? And you'll see that the graph updates. And as you see the graph updating in real time as you're clicking through, which took me like, 10 seconds, which these days 10 seconds feels like a long time. You see this really alarming trend of this company that has tax rate that started off at 60%, and I kid you not, I couldn't believe my eyes. I actually had to go back and check it for myself, and it really was 60%. And it dropped all the way down, that was in 2010, it dropped all the way down to a negative 27%. Well, really, it wasn't a negative 27%, it was 27%. So they did, they tagged it with a negative number. Again, as an SEC analyst, you're going to see this data in real time. You can interact with it, you can take out companies, and then as you start deselecting companies, some real patterns emerge. And so, again, this company, tagging its tax rate with a negative stands out from the pack. Now, the SEC analysts, when you think about it, right, they can also look at different data points together. So I'm going to show you the same data, but overlaid with some other XBRL data, right? So another way of looking at this data is say, hey, what if we have a scatter plot here? So you might not be able to see in the back, but here we have a scatter plot of the tax rate on the y-axis, and then we have EBIT on the x-axis. So again, I've selected that company with the negative tax rate of 27%, Western Refining again. I don't think Western Refining is in the room, but now when you start overlaying different data points together, it becomes really obvious that there is something interesting going on with this company, which warrants further investigation. So, you can see that this company is here. They have a negative 27% tax rate, but yet the earnings are quite comparable to other companies, but guess what? Their tax rates are up here, right? So when you're lining up the X and Y axes, other comparable companies in the same sort of earnings bucket have tax rates much higher. What's going on with Western Refining? Now, it's really easy for the SEC then to turn its attention to, previous years to see if this was a problem or if this company also looked anomalous in 2014. Well, it's as easy as doing this. Let's switch to 2014 and see what's going on there with this company. Oh, so now Western Refining is part of the pack. Okay, so 2015 looks really weird, right? If the SEC wants to, further, investigate other companies, all they have to do is pull down from this drop down, let's look at Chevron. And Chevron is highlighted. Okay, so not a big deal. But again, the point I want to make here is to sort of highlight a couple of things. One is, as Mike pointed out, the graphical interactivity, fun aspect of XBRL is actually now, right? I could go on for days showing you data because I'm a data geek. I get excited about data, right? But I'm not going to bore you with that. But the point is that this data is now alive. It's no longer stuck in Excel format, static, right? You don't have to spend tons of time to collect the information. If you have a question, all you have to do is type in your question, type in the terms that you're looking for, type in the companies. And as you can see, the data becomes alive within seconds. And more than 10 seconds of a query is way too long. And secondly, the other point I want to make is, just as we've been talking about, the SEC having the ability to analyze this information in literally real time, people within companies are able to do that. And we're getting a lot of new questions from people that I never would have anticipated. I always thought investors, external reporting firms like yourself, but companies are using this for market intelligence, for benchmarking themselves against competitors, identifying new opportunities, and more importantly, if you're in the sort of the tech space, and we have a couple of customers in the tech space, want to know who is acquiring who, right? Who their competitors are acquiring. All that information is in the business combination footnote, but guess what? That information is really easy to get to now. Okay? So I'm happy to answer questions. If there are any questions, do we have time for questions?
Yes. Yeah.
If there are any questions, happy to answer. If not, later on, if you wanted to ask me a personal question, that's fine too. But are there any questions now? Yes.
I like your storyboard format, but some people might prefer the Excel. Can you get both out of it?
Absolutely. We started out with just wanting to, because we got so excited about making the data come alive with these graphs. And we get a lot of people say, I love my Excel still, but I want to be able to download this data really quickly. So all of this data that you can pull up in the card can be downloaded immediately into an Excel format. Yes. And some people like to be able to download their charts too as a JPEG file or a PDF. You can do that too, yeah.
Can you show the little box where you get go to one of your cards and show how you can get the information underneath?
Oh, okay, yep. So let's say, here you've got this little thing here, print chart, so you can click on that little icon there and you can download to the different file formats. So far we've put it into JPEG, PDF, but there's and then soon we're going to put a little thing where you can download it into Excel, but you can also do it this way, right? So I'm going to show you this where you can export data. And let's say you don't like graphs and you want to download the data, you can do the same thing here. You can kind of type in, Exxon. Pulls up Exxon, click go to peer. I can, now select, some other companies. You can see that I'm updating, right? Net income, I'm just, winging it. Actually, net income. Revenues. And then I'm going to export data and click on, annual, quarterly, right? I'm going to click on this button that says refresh data and it pulls up data. So that's how quickly I'm able to query it, right? So literally data at your fingertips. And then you can do your export to CSV. Are there any other questions? Mike.
The one question, one of the issues that comes up when XBRL quality is suspect is how trustworthy is the data. And I know you mentioned that, and you've shown some errors. We certainly know, the SEC knows there are errors in the filings. But one of the concerns is, can I use a tool like this and trust it? Can you comment on that?
That's a great question. So the one thing I should have started out saying is that Emily and I co-founded this company, and Emily's a technologist and I'm a data geek. And so I spent days in, days out, hours looking at your data. And what we've done is we've implemented some internal algorithms to clean the data. Trying to figure out a better word, but to make it correct when there are negative values that is jarring to the eyes, right? Because when you have people relying on this information, the data has to be correct. So what that means is that when companies don't tag correctly, when they make little errors like scale, right, adding a few zeros, negative sign when it shouldn't be, not or when they create unnecessary extensions, it just makes my job that much harder, and we spend time, trying to clean that. So, that's not ideal, obviously, and as Mike mentioned, the SEC is really pushing hard on improved quality, and from again, I can say this, I suppose, in public, is that, they've been happy with what they've seen so far, that we've been able to show them. Again, it's not this, right? It's the technology that we're customizing that is powering what you saw today. It's that platform that powers how quickly you can get that access to data, how quickly you can analyze that data. That's what we're building for the SEC. So just as easily as I can switch graphs and look at anomalies and drill in, drill out, that kind of thing, they can do exactly the same thing. Any other questions? Okay, I'll be around, so happy to answer questions and chat later on if you have any. Okay, thank you so much for your time.